So if you cannot be able to hear me, you can be able to notify me in advance. So I want us to talk about the food and beverage service sequence, and from the word itself, you can tell that this is a procedure that we normally use, especially being the waiting staff. In this department, you are required to be able to serve the guest with a required procedure, and that is a standard procedure. If you find yourself working anywhere in the world, that is actually the procedure that is normally used in especially in this service area. So the food and service sequence is basically the guidelines of how to do things right from the start to the finish, okay, in terms of serving the guest and by following the standard of that hotel, okay, bearing in mind that this kind of guidelines, of course, does not apply to each and every hotel because it also depends with the class of the hotel. If it is a star rated, especially the ones that we refer to classified hotels, e.g. Hilton Hotel, Intercontinental Hotel, then you can be able to note that there is a certain guidelines. Even the way the waiting staff behave, they behave in a certain manner that you can tell that they are actually from a particular place, okay? Because the way they are doing their service. So the same way when we are talking about, these procedures, they are quite important because the hospitality industry, of course, it is a professional industry which requires specific skills that you are supposed to be equipped with. And I basically want us to go through maybe a few service stages. The service stages that we have. We have number one, maybe, for example, taking bookings, preparation of service, welcoming the dinners, taking customers' food and beverage orders, service of food and beverage, clearing, billing, dishwashing, clearing, following service, and so on. So basically, all these have a certain procedure in which you are supposed to follow to be able to work efficiently because, for example, if you're clearing the table and they are maybe, for example, 5 guests who have come to eat, maybe who are eating in that table, you can't just pick one plate, take it to the kitchen, then come for another one, take it to the dishwasher until the 5 plates are out. So what you normally do, you have to ensure that you are equipped with techniques on how you can be able to carry all the 5 plates at once, okay? You are able to carry all the 5 plates at once so that at least you don't spend a lot of time, especially in terms of, going to and fro. So professionally, you have to work efficiently to ensure that at least you are portraying you are actually portraying the technical skills that you are supposed to have as a waiting staff working in that department. So looking at the basic technical skills that waiting staff should basically have include holding a service spoon and fork, using a service plate, carrying trays, carrying plates, using service servers, carrying glasses, and so on. So basically, these technical waiting skills, they are the ones that you will be able to practice, especially in your practicals. You'll be able, when we are talking about this, the silver service, you noted that you are supposed to use a serving spoon and a fork. And if you need to use this serving spoon and a fork, then definitely you need to know the techniques of how to hold them together to form a tongue, so that you are able to serve food from the salver to the service plate of the guest. And in terms of maybe carrying trays, there's a way that you need to hold your trays. And if it is glasses also, there is a specific way you need to do that. And that's why practicals are quite important for you to be able to work in such an industry. So basically, we will be able to talk about number one, taking bookings, on how to take bookings. So I'll try as much as possible to summarize because they are a bit wide. And we have preparation for service. We also have welcoming of dinners. Taking customers' food and beverage orders. We have service of food and beverage. So you can correct there. I've written customers, food and beverage orders. Service of food and beverage. Then we have another stage, which is clearing. We have billing. Then we have dishwashing. Clear this dishwashing. Sorry. And service. Okay. I use okay, black is better. So basically, these are the stages of the food and beverage service sequence, and I'm going to summarize all of them. You can be able to, more details are of course in the notes, whereby you can be able to follow uh, through. Okay, you can be able to follow through each and every step. It is well explained, and of course, for these stages, of course, to be able to be done effectively, you are supposed to be equipped with basic technical skills and basic etiquettes, which definitely we will be able to equip you with in your practicals for you to be able to even note how things are done. Okay. So, in summary of booking, so whenever we are talking about booking of the customers, here you have to look at, first of all, even before the customers come to the to reserve to be in the hotel, you also have to make sure that you have all that is needed for them to enjoy the services that you are offering. So first of all, you have to check on the kind of food you are offering. You have to ensure that the timings you're offering are known. And if you allow some maybe some facilities which are there, like for example, if you have a playground for the children, or for example, if you have parking facilities and so on, you have to make sure that at least you know all these things in advance, so that whenever the customer is making the bookings, you are able to advise them whether they are on offer or they are not on offer. And by doing this reservation, it is important for you to be able to know even how to answer the phone call, so that at least you are able to take each and every detail. Okay, and especially you are always recommended to have at least a book and a pen, okay, for reservation, for you to be able to note exactly what the customer needs. The reason as to why it is important to have them is because at least you don't want to make errors, especially when you are serving your customers. And if a customer maybe wanted a certain item, and that maybe was the most important item that they had requested for, then it is quite important for you to make sure that at least you have maybe noted it down, so that they are not disappointed by the kind of maybe negligence that you are doing. Maybe you didn't think that it is important, while they thought that it is quite important for them to come to your establishment because of that one item that they thought you had noted down. So after the booking, you have to prepare for the service. Okay, you have already known how many guests you are requiring, and you already know what they might like. So basically, you have to ensure that you prepare the service area, okay, that is the restaurant, before the service time, especially before even the guests arrive. So you make sure that you do each and every aspect that is required of you in preparation for your guests who are coming. So you have to do the mise en place tasks that are supposed to be done. These are normally known as pre-service tasks, the ones that you do before, in preparation of the place, before even the guest comes in, or when you go to a hotel, the way you find things there. Okay, people have already done mise en place before. So some of the things that are done, especially in the mise en place, maybe for example, you make sure that the carpets are cleaned. If maybe there are carpets in the restaurants, they are well cleaned. You make sure that there is lighting, good proper lighting. If the bulbs have do not work, you have to replace them. Make sure that the menu cards are presentable and attractive. Sometimes, some guests can drop food on top of the menu cards and maybe you did not notice. So you have to make sure that, you if it requires replacing, you have to replace in advance. And so that at least when the guests come in, they find everything fresh, okay? From the carpet to the chairs to the linen, even to the flowers, okay? Fresh flowers, you make sure that you have replaced them so that everything is in place before the customers arrive. So on this, by doing this, you will notice that there will always be a supervisor to confirm. Okay, so definitely some people can be mischievous, so you cannot trust even you cannot be able to trust all the workers to be able to be responsible. Of course, sometimes you tell someone to do something and they go missing. Okay, so just to avoid that, that's why we have supervisors, someone to be able to counter check to see whether each and everything is in order. Okay, so if the booking is in accordance to the preparation and so on. Maybe if the booking was about a wedding, does the theme look like for a wedding? Have you prepared? Have you made sure that there are, a lot of roses and so on, so that at least the place looks like it is in preparation for a wedding event which is going to happen, or if it is a business meeting. Okay, so you make sure that maybe you have placed notepads, you have placed pens and so on, so that maybe it simply simplifies your work, especially when the guests come. They already have all that they might be requiring. So you also have to make sure you do briefing. Briefing is very important. Briefing is basically done in each and every department, be it in the kitchen, be it in the service department, be it in housekeeping. Any department always has a briefing, and a briefing is important for some reason. Number one, to be able to check staff punctuality. Okay, nobody wants to have staff who come to work late. Punctuality is key, and preferably the staff are required to be able to report half an hour early. Okay, so for example, if you are supposed to be at work by 8, then you should be there by 7:30. Okay, just for you to prepare in advance. So nobody wants to brief people who are not punctual. Okay, so the briefing actually checks on the staff punctuality, and the briefing also is there to check the grooming of the staff. Okay, in terms of the uniforms that they are wearing, are they clean? Are they well pressed? What about the shoes, the nails, and so on? So you have to make sure you look presentable. So if, for example, there are so prominent people, you have to show seriousness. You have to show it even from how you have worn and so on. And these are things that we will do in our practicals. And if our practicals, we are supposed to start the practicals, and most of the times we start our practicals at 7. Okay, and the hospitality industry, the morning shift actually starts from 7, if you don't know. 7 o'clock. And also our practicals start from 7. So that means that you should be by 6:30, you should already be at the premise. Okay? Even by 6, actually you should be already at the premise. Why? Because a staff wears uniform, okay? And basically you cannot wear uniform from at home. So what you do is that we have changing rooms, and those changing rooms we can be able to go shower. Maybe if you need to shower, you will shower, clean up yourself, wear your uniform, and that will take time. So for example, if you're supposed to report by 7 and you come on at 7, when are you going to change to your uniform? When are you going to do your briefing? So you can just imagine, at the end of the day, you will end up losing 1 hour or 2 hours because of your lateness. Always know, if the time is supposed to be 8, then you are supposed to be maybe at the place at 7:30, so that at least or rather even 6:30, be there at 6:30, so that you can do the briefing for 30 minutes, and that after 30 minutes you can be able to start your day. Okay? And another reason for briefing is to take attendance. Take attendance and find out reasons for absenteeism. Okay, so the ones who have reported to work, you will tick them present, and the ones who did not, and of course you will always have to note the reason as to why they are absent. The same way when you are supposed to have classes and you do not attend your classes, do you even give reasons as why you don't attend classes? Do you? And I know there are some people who have such behaviors, and these behaviors will cost you, especially when you are going into the industry, because it is not something they can tolerate. Okay? You keep on becoming late, not attending maybe the duties that you have been assigned, then you lose your job. Another reason is to be allocated responsibility for the day. Definitely, maybe if there is a lot of work, you will be assigned maybe to another section, or maybe if the sections have rotations, then you can be able to be rotated to be taken to another section. And there is always checking of the big five. Big five. This is very common in the especially in this food and beverage service department. The big five you are also required to have. I cannot allow you to enter into the training sessions without the following big five. Number one, you should be able to have a waiter or a waitress cloth. Okay, have a pen, have a check pad, and then have a bottle opener. Okay, bottle opener stroke wine opener. You need to have all of them. And the last one is a matchbox or a lighter. Matchbox or a lighter. Those big five, you must have them. It is a must. If you don't know, note them right now, because you cannot function without the big five. Okay, that is what makes you a waiter or a waitress. So later on, we'll be able to know why the big five is important. We'll be able to discuss, especially doing the practicals. You will be able to see why they are important. And another reason why briefing is important is to give special instructions. Okay, so basically you will be able to maybe if you are the supervisor or the manager, you'll be able to alert the staff on the items not available. Like, for example, if it is maybe a specific wine that is in the list and it is not there, you will be able to tell them, so that when the guest asks about the same wine, you are able to tell them that it is not available. Another one is maybe omissions or additions to the menu. For example, if there is something that has been added to the menu, okay, you should be able to know, so that maybe when the guest maybe asks whether there is something else, you can be able to tell them. If there is price increase, okay, like for example, if a glass of juice was going for 100 shillings and now the economy has changed, it is 150, you should be able to know that, so that at least you advise the guest. Another one is important functions. If important functions are there, so you have to ensure that these important functions are known. For example, if there is a wedding, okay, you should know that there is a wedding. You should know whether there is a certain meeting of professionals, or you should be knowledgeable about what is going on in the establishment. And another reason, which is why briefing is there, is for you to question, okay? For questioning. In terms of whenever you have any question, remember that immediately you start your duties, you don't have time to keep on asking things around, okay? This is the time you can be able to ask things maybe regarding to maybe a certain service, a certain menu. So you ensure that you have adequate knowledge about anything that you feel like you need to know about. Another reason is to train the staff. Like, for example, if they are new staff, especially you will be able to see this in your attachment. When you go for your attachment, you will note that you will have to be done orientation and so on, what happens in the department. So basically you need to be trained, and if you are a new staff, maybe you have been employed recently, you also need to be trained. So also motivating the staff, okay? Briefing is to motivate the staff. You need to ensure that the staff are well motivated. They have the energy to face the day with all the challenges that are going to come about. So basically, those are some of the reasons. There are several. You can note that there are so many. So you should be able to note that this briefing actually is quite important. And remember, the briefing is done after each and every shift. So the morning shift has their own briefing. The afternoon shift has their own briefing, whereby the staff for the morning hand over to the staff who are going to come in the afternoon, okay? So you have to make sure that at least they are knowledgeable what is happening, and so on, so that they do not do things wrongly, okay? Maybe if you are serving a certain guest and they needed a special request, then your shift has ended, you have to make sure the next who is coming is knowledgeable about that guest, so that at least the guest does not feel like neglected, okay? So I think the next stage after taking bookings, preparation for the service, now you have to welcome the diners, okay? The guests who are going to come to the hotel. So basically, the diners are the ones who come to the hotel, so they need to feel welcomed, and you need to have a certain way of receiving these guests, okay, to ensure that they are, they are wanted in that establishment, and for them to feel like the place actually was meant for them. Okay, so they don't want to feel like outsiders. I don't know how many people have gone into our hotel and nobody just cares about you. Okay, you just walk in, you just find yourself a seat. You even end up sitting in the wrong place, which they are not even serving foods and drinks. So nobody cares to come direct you. Okay, maybe this is just the lobby. You can go to the restaurant and so on. So basically, you need to be welcomed to the establishment for you even to feel at ease, to feel like you're getting used to the atmosphere of the hotel. So basically, we have procedures on how to be able to welcome our guests. So the first procedure is to be able to welcome the guest from the entrance of the restaurant. Okay, so they should not wait by themselves for more than 10 seconds at the entrance. So you have to make sure that at least you have approached them, you have asked them whether they have the reservations. If they do not have the reservations, direct them to a table that is not reserved. And the second procedure, the first impression that the guest receives is quite important. Okay, it is quite important, the kind of consideration that you put out there in terms of maybe greeting the guest, making sure that you maintain eye contact, making sure that you are smiling at them, show brightness in your face. Okay, so that at least they can be able even to feel welcomed. Okay, and also make sure that you are assisting you make sure that if, for example, the head waiter who is in charge in receiving of the guest is not there, you are able to take the guests to the tables. Okay, and if there is overbooking, of course, you have to ensure that at least you check of maybe places whereby at least there is no maybe bookings that have been made, and take the guest over there, so that at least the guest does not sit in a place which has already been booked. We already know when it is so embarrassing. Maybe you are having your chicken over there, and maybe your French fries, and maybe some people, some people just approach you all of a sudden and tell you, excuse me, this is my table, I've booked it, and so on. They even show you the name which is written on the table, which you had not noted. So it is not really nice to be able to make the guests go through that. So you have to ensure that you have considered all that before even the guest does what? Sits on the wrong tables. So basically, those are some of the procedures that you have to ensure, and it is quite important for you to know that immediately you welcome the guests and take them to where they are supposed to sit, you have to help them sit down and start maybe conversing with them. Okay, converse with them, ask them what they want, open the napkin for them, and place maybe, for example, a menu, or offer some water and so on, for them to be able to feel welcomed. So after welcoming the diners, you have to take the customers' food and beverage orders. Okay, so you have to make sure that they have already sit down, they have already sit down to their tables. They now are more comfortable even to make the order. So you go ahead and provide the menu. You have to hand the menus to the guests. Okay, so and it is quite important to be able even to know you are able to consider a certain procedure in which even you are giving these menus to your guests. So ensure that even if it is the children who are there, or the women or the men, just make sure that at least you start with if it is the women and the men, make sure that you start with the women, give them the menu, then go to the man or the men and give them the menu. And if children are there, please avail the menus also, but just ensure that at least you if you have maybe a children's menu, you give them, okay, so that at least each and every person will be able to eat what they would, they would like. The children's menu definitely is a bit different, because children, will really want light meals than, the adults. Adults will go for steaks, they will go even for ugali and so on. But when you're talking about the children, maybe most of them, they will think of French fries. They will want maybe, a bit of snacks and so on. So you have to consider a menu that contains such meals for them to be able to, for all your guests to be able to enjoy, regardless whether they are children or men. So you have there are several methods of taking orders. We have triplicate method, we have duplicate method, we have service with order, we have pre-ordered. So there are so many that we normally have, and maybe I'll talk of a few that are normally used. The most common ones are the triplicate method. So this is a method, of course, that is taken in 3 copies. Okay, 3 copies. So 1 copy. So when the order is taken, so the top copy goes to the supply point kitchen, or the supply point, which is the kitchen, and the second copy goes to the cashier for billing, and the third copy is retained. Okay, and that's why I would recommend that when you are buying maybe an order pad, please buy the one that is the one that is a triplicate. Okay, triplicate meaning that you can be able to have 3 copies. One you will be able to take it to the kitchen, the other one you will give it to the cashier, and the third one you remain it yourself for reference purposes. Okay, so you don't want, for example, you are serving a certain guest, then you are confused whether did they ask for a beverage, didn't they ask, which type of a dessert did they ask. You're even confused. So what you do, you have to make sure that you have this a copy that you have remained with, so that at least you can be able to refer. Even if you're going to take your order from the kitchen, you already know which kind of order you are taking for a specific guest. And having 1 copy, you just take it to the kitchen. Okay, so you remain with nothing but confusions. And of course, when confusions comes in, confidence goes down, and you keep on messing from the start to the end. So make sure that you buy a triplicate order pad, okay, especially for your practicals. And we also have another one that we call the duplicate, and of course that one you can be able to note that if it is a duplicate, then it is just 2 copies. Okay, and this duplicate, of course, is whereby the top copy goes to the kitchen and the second copy you remain with it, and maybe you can opt to take it in the for the billing purposes, but not if you are not able to. What if the guest is done with the food and they want to go away? What are you going to do? They are done with the food, they want to go away, the cashier does not even know what the guest had eaten, you had not even given them the copy. So basically they might even decide to be to lie about a certain meal they had eaten, okay, pay less amount of money, which maybe if they were supposed to pay 500, they will end up, saying that, I ate only French fries. And how can the cashier say that it is the customer is wrong, and the cashier is on a different, place whereby they can't, come and find you in the kitchen. So you have to make sure that at least triplicate order pad is better, because it will assist to curb even some of the challenges that happen during the time of the time of the time of maybe billing the guests or taking the orders. So you'll notice that the order pad in your notes, you will be able to see that there is two images, of course, that are maybe are blank, and which you are supposed to fill, like for example an example of an order pad. Okay, so that order pad, of course, it should have the name of the establishment, for example, and it has a table number, the number of covers, okay, and the space that has been left there is for you to be able to write exactly what the guest had ordered. And you will write the date and the signature, okay? Your signature is unique. Each and every person has a unique signature. So if I do my signature, definitely everyone will know that it is Madam Rose who had written that signature. So everyone will be able, even if the guest, goes to the cashier and the cashier bills the guest, then the bill will be cleared, okay? The bill will be cleared on your name. Unlike if the guest just goes and nobody can be able to locate where, who even served that guest, nobody knows. So you have to make sure that this order pad is essential for you, so that at least you are able to work without any difficulties. So maybe just like maybe a short exercise, I would want you to be able to maybe come up with an order pad, just in assumption of maybe a certain, you can just have maybe a specific hotel, you can just name it. Maybe you can say that it is called Caroline, maybe hotel. Just try creating this, writing down the requirements that are needed to be in the order pad, so that you can be able to get to know especially what is required of you during the service time. So that's a self-assessment. That is a self-assessment exercise. So make sure that as much as you will be able to go through them in the notes, you also do it yourselves, okay? Give different informations for you to be able to learn well. So let's go to the next stage, which is the service of food and beverage. Service of food and beverage. So you have already taken your order, okay? You already know what this customer wants. you have maybe your order pad, you have already taken one to the kitchen, you have taken one to the billing, to the cashier, and you have one for reference purposes. So you are required to be able to use certain types of service methods which we had discussed before. Okay, we had talked about service methods that we use, especially in service. Okay, each and every establishment has its own service methods that they prefer to use. Like, for example, if Intercontinental Hotel chooses to have maybe assisted service, okay, maybe if it decides to have the self-service and include the buffet, then maybe that works for them. So what you just do is just for you to be able to serve water, make sure that each and every cutleries are placed on the table. Okay, if a guest requires additions, you make sure that at least they are given the additions. You make sure that whenever the guest is done with the food, you have to clear the plates, take back, the plates and the cutleries to the dishwasher. If the linen is dirty, you make sure that you change the linen, and so on. Okay. So I don't want us to go to detail into the service methods that we have, because we had already talked about this, just to be able to save on time. Unless there is any question that you might come across, then I can be able to address it. But it's my assumption that we had already covered on methods of service of food and beverage that we normally use in the food and beverage department. So clearing. So after you have served your guests, you need also to know how to be able to clear. Okay, most guests are a bit, you just don't assume that everyone was born using cutleries. Not everyone was born using a fork and a knife. Okay, some people, maybe they came to the hotel, they wanted to treat themselves, and then all of a sudden they're provided with a fork and a knife. They are supposed to eat chicken with a fork and a knife. So you can imagine what they are going to do. Okay, they definitely, that table isn't going to look nice afterwards. So you have to make sure that you also learn on how you are supposed to clear. So clearing, of course, is after maybe a certain course. Like, for example, maybe let's say that it is a table dot. If it was a table dot kind of, menu that you are having, and maybe it was a buffet service. Okay, so whereby the guests had already gone and started with a starter or appetizer. So after they are done, they will stand up again and go for what? For maybe the main course. So in that period, you have to make sure that you have cleared the cutleries and the crockeries that were used in eating what? The appetizer or the starter. So after that, you also make sure that if the guest is done with eating the main course, you clear then, until the dessert. Okay, so that you are able to to ensure that the place is clean enough for the guests to be able to have their second or third meal. So it's also important for the waiter to be able to know that we clean moving clockwise. Okay, clean moving clockwise. Practically, we will be able to do this. You'll be able to see. I cannot be able to show it to you right now. So practically, you'll be able to see how clockwise cleaning means. So it is Clearing is quite important, especially clearing is quite important. So you have to make sure that, for example, if it is the side plates and the knives, you have to place maybe, for example, on the table there was a side plate and there were knives and maybe there were forks and so on. So you have to use the side plate to be able to place the 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 knives and the forks. Actually, you just don't hold the fork and the knife on your hand and take it to the dishwashing area. Please don't do that. What you do, you take a side plate, place the cutleries on top, then take, you take them to the wash up area. So after clearing, you do the billing. So of course the guest is done with eating, you have cleared, and maybe they are just waiting for the bill, okay, for them to be able to make the payments and go. Then you'll have to note that we have different also methods of billing. Methods of billing. So we have one method is called bill as check. This separate bill. We have bill with order, prepaid. We have a voucher. We have no charge. We have deferred, and so on. Most common one that you will find in the industry is called the voucher. The voucher is especially the one that, especially if the guests are being paid for by a certain company, okay, like for example they are members who came there for a certain meeting, okay, and the company had paid for the entire event. Like for example, they had paid for the conference rooms, they had paid for the food, the meals, everything. Okay, so what the guest comes with is a voucher. Okay, they are normally given a voucher, and the voucher is produced by the department. Okay, so the supervisors make sure that they make these vouchers in advance, and whenever the guest comes with that voucher, then you don't bill them. Definitely they have already paid the money in advance, so it will look so stupid for you to go ahead and bill them. So to avoid just awkwardness, so you have to make sure that at least you ask, okay, which billing method do you prefer? Okay, so if they tell you that they have a voucher and so on, then you already know. It's not that you just go straight and bring the bill to them. So please make sure that you have gone through the other methods of billing that we have. There's a whole lot of descriptions that are there. So maybe let me talk about a few methods, one or two. Maybe I can talk about the bill as check. Bill as check. So this is whereby when the guest requires the bill, the waiter checks that everything entered, especially in the duplicate copy of the food and beverage check, is correct, okay, and they will always confirm whether the total amount is the one that they are required to pay. So, and after that, the guest is able to make payments either through the cash desk, okay, on the cash desk, that's the cashier on his way out, or pay directly to the waiter, who will give any change that is necessary. Okay, so this one gives an allowance whereby at least the guest can be able to choose whether they are going to pay through the cashier or they are going to pay to the waiter, and then the waiter is going to take it to the cashier and bring change to them. So preferably you will be able to note also how our guests behave, especially during our practicals. There are those who will just give you cash. There are those ones who will prefer going to the cashier area. Preferences differ with the different guests. Okay, there are guests who feel like if they give a cashier if they actually give the waiter cash, then the waiter may decide not to return the change. Okay, and like when you take it to the cashier definitely will have to give you your money, because you'll be standing there waiting for the money. And like when you are seated and the waiter goes and goes forever. So it depends. It depends. If you are someone who gives out maybe tips and so on, especially if it is someone, if you see maybe a person, a guest prefers, even giving you cash to pay, then maybe they are preferring maybe to give you maybe a tip. Okay, maybe when you bring the change back, then they might decide to tip you. Okay, but if a guest goes and pays directly to the cashier, trust me, there's no tip on that table. Okay, so it depends. It depends. At the end of the day, guests are different, but you have to note that the services shouldn't change whether they give you a tip or not. Okay, so check on the differences between a duplicate and maybe a triplicate. Why should establishments use duplicates? Why shouldn't they use a triplicate, and so on? So that is also for you to do. So just note that if your service is good, automatically it attracts what? It attracts tips. I don't know if you know, maybe for example, there are nationalities who just have a behavior of tipping. Okay, especially is it the Europeans? Guests from the European countries, they have a habit. They just have a natural habit of tipping. Either you have served them only tea, or you have served them maybe a piece of cake, they will end up tipping you. Okay. So I remember there is a time that I just served a guest. It's not something much. It's just like a glass of juice, and some French fries and um, and some chicken, and the guest actually tipped me well. Okay. So I actually ended up, getting a tip of 500, 500 just for, it was just like just taking the food from the kitchen and just giving them. There was no extra, you know, um, there was no extra services that I had, given the guest. So it is not like they had, sent me back more than 5 times. Okay. So just at a go, you can imagine. So if all the guests can behave like that one guest, okay, and at the end of the day you end up serving maybe, for example, 10 or 15 or 20, okay. So some guests come like a group, so they can come 5 at a go, and they will decide to tip you. Yeah, and I remember the highest tip I think I've ever gotten in this hospitality industry is $50. $50. That's how much? 5,000. I think that is the highest. 5,000 at a go. Okay. Only one guest who felt like my services were so good, and he felt like, I deserve, a token of appreciation. So it depends. It depends. Either just don't think that if you serve maybe, I think there's a time I also served a couple. It was a wife and a husband and some kids. I served them really. I think I enjoyed serving. I served them well, and trust me, it's not the guy who gave me the tip. Actually, the lady, the wife, is the one who gave me a tip. So you can just imagine, okay? It's not about, serving the opposite gender, which attracts tips, but also women. Women can also tip you depending on how your services are. And your services, you can make your services better by, being someone who loves your job, okay? There is that habit whereby people just do things, you feel like you are being forced to do it, and you really even show it in your face. The way you walk, it shows how disappointed you are, and so on. So being happy and enjoying what you do can really make you go to places, okay? So it doesn't matter how small you start. At the end of the day is your skills will automatically sell you. So if maybe, for example, you get a job, and especially if it is a casual in the industry, and you get paid maybe 1,000 per day, don't feel like it is little money, okay? So just imagine if you serve someone and maybe you get lucky and get maybe a tip of 5,000 or 1,000 or 2,000. How much money have you made on that day? Okay, so you're going to go home even with 5,000, and you are thinking of 1,000. Okay, so this department actually, it is a department which sometimes you even, write your own check. Okay, at the end of the day, if the day is so good, then you get guests who can be able to tip you, then you will go home smiling. Okay, so you get guests who, like, for example, Chinese. I'm not discriminating, but the Chinese sometimes, I don't know, I don't think they were taught they were taught on, the etiquette of, giving tips. They hardly give a tip, especially the Chinese. Even though they like you and they like the services, I don't know what actually the Chinese, they will just appreciate you, tell you that your services is so good, but they will not give you a small token. But at the end of the day, don't think of tips, okay? Just make sure that at least you sharpen your skills, and your skills will sell you. Okay, if you focus on the tips, you're going to be disappointed. On the day that you think that you are going to get tips, that will be the worst day. Okay, you'll end up not getting those tips. So focus on delivering, focus on loving your job, focus on doing your very best to be able to ensure that the customers enjoy. Okay, and some hotels, in terms of tips, they also prefer maybe in the bill, they actually include the tip in the bill. So you will get that you have done the service and so on. And for example, if the meal that they have taken is 500, you will discover that there is the service charge, okay? That service charge, they will deduct it. Yeah, they will deduct it. So when you are bringing the bill also to the guest, it is also important to be able to let them know that, this is the amount that, take them through. Otherwise, the guest will think that you have already taken your own tip, but in the real sense, it is paid within the bill. Okay. So make sure that at least you let them know if there is service charge. So some hotels can take a service charge of 150, 100, or 50 bob. So it depends also with the establishment. Okay. So just to be able to ensure that at the end of the day, their staff also are, well taken care of. And most of the establishment, this service charge is distributed, especially to the departments which were involved in delivering this service. Okay, so if it was housekeeping, if it was the kitchen staff, or it is the food and beverage department. So it is an extra bonus apart from your paycheck that you are going to receive. So I think we had talked about even the methods of payment. We talked about the cash payments, the check, the debit cards, a lot of methods can be used, and it is quite important for you also to know the kind of method that your establishment uses. Okay, there are actually establishments that don't even accept they don't accept checks. Okay, some even don't accept cash. I don't know whether you have gone to restaurants or hotels and they say that they do not accept cash. It's either you pay through M-Pesa, you pay with credit cards, nothing about cash. Okay, so also note, also please advise the customers for you to be able to not make them, go away disappointed. They have already eaten and they think that they're going to pay with cash, and maybe they did not have that money with them. So you have to make sure at least you give them that information in advance. And after they have cleared their bill, it is good, it is courteous for you to be able to see your guest out. Okay, see your guest out. So assist them moving, maybe moving away from their chairs and collecting maybe their personal belongings. Maybe it is the coats, the hats, and the bags. It is actually easy to forget such items because now they are full. Okay, they have eaten, they are happy, they have enjoyed. They might even forget their bags that they came with. Okay, so it is good for you to be able to, remind them. Okay, here is your bag, and so on. And also, you have to tell them, for example, maybe give them a good afternoon. Maybe it is afternoon, or maybe it is maybe in the evening. Tell them good evening, and if you know the names, please refer them to their names. Okay, so if you know that it is Mr. Bernard, tell them that, good afternoon, Mr. Bernard. Tell them good afternoon, Miss. If it is a Mrs. or a Miss, especially, it is not easy to be able to differentiate a Mrs. and a Miss. I don't know how actually you people refer me to, unless I tell you. Okay, that's when you'll be able to know whether am I a Mrs. or a Miss. But a Mr. is a bit, general. You can be able to be able to refer. And if you are not sure about maybe the status of a lady, it is courteous enough to use madam. Okay, so don't tell a young lady without kids, without even a husband, okay, Mrs. So and so with a big smile. Trust me, you might ruin their day, okay? Even though your meals were so good, you might end up ruining their day. So to be on the safe side, or rather you might think that a person is old enough, then definitely they should be married, okay? Ladies can be confusing. Okay, so unless the lady has shared their marital status with you, don't be in a haste. Okay, and I think I noted such, especially when I gave you assignments. Some of you were referring me to Miss, some of you were referring me to Mrs., and so on. But just to be on the safe side, if you are not sure, kindly ensure that you use a general term. Okay, use a madam. So if it is Madam Marie, just use Madam Marie. It is a bit flexible, so the other person will not feel offended. And then you complete the service there, okay? Then you'll go to the next stage about dishwashing, okay? You have already seen the guest off. Then you have to ensure that at least the cutleries are washed, or for example, if they are linen that have been soiled, the ones that are dirty are cleaned. Okay, so either is it manual, so it depends with also the type of establishment. So if it is a small establishment, then they don't have a washing machine, so definitely you will have to wash them. So if it is an establishment that has a washing machine, you can wash them. Or maybe you can be able, actually most of the not a washing machine but a dishwasher, you have to ensure that if it is a dishwasher, then definitely you place the equipment on the dishwasher for them to be able to be washed. And you ensure that if it is the linen, take them to the laundry, okay? I guess each and every establishment has a laundry department which they can be able to be washed for the next service to take place. So the last stage is clearing following service. Okay. So after you have done all the cleaning, you have to prepare. You have to prepare for the clearing following service. You have to to start again with the entire process. Like for example, if you are done with breakfast, you have to prepare again for lunch, then you have to prepare again for dinner in that order, so that at least the work moves faster. So I want us maybe to talk about maybe the people who you can be able to refuse services to, especially in terms of the establishment. They are people you can be able to refuse services to, as much as it is always good to be able to accept each and every person without discrimination into the restaurant, but there are some people who you can be able to refuse services to, e.g. if a person is drunk. Okay, so if it is a person is drunk, high on drugs and so on, so definitely you do not want people who are not of their sound mind. Okay, maybe they are they can't even walk properly. They might end up breaking some equipment that you have placed on the table, so you can refuse to let them into the restaurant. And the other reason as why you can refuse, giving services to guests is when maybe there is no space left. Okay, so if maybe you have a space for 100 people and 100 people have already uh, uh, filled the establishment, it is wise enough to let the other ones know that there is no space for them to go maybe to the nearby hotel or restaurant. Don't be greedy enough and force even the guests who had come in. They maybe they are almost done with their lunch. You are forcing, you are making them eat so fast so that the other ones can be able to come in. Please don't do that. Just give each and every guest time to be able to enjoy their meals until they are done. And of course, if someone is a troublemaker, If someone is a troublemaker, there are people who just, I don't know when to shut up, or are just there just to bring their own disappointments in life. You will always have to refuse them to enter into the establishment. And also the people who do not comply with the dress requirements of the operations. Okay, maybe in terms of, maybe if you have a certain dress code, if you have a certain way of decency. Okay, if maybe, for example, you feel that you can't tolerate nude kind of clothes, then you can decide maybe not to allow some guests to come into the establishment. At the end of the day, you have the rights to be able to do that. And Act of 1956 about the hotel proprietors, okay, whereby at least the food and beverage has been provided with the leeway in which they can be able to choose on what to do with their restaurant, in terms of policies, in terms of laws that they want to enact. So lastly, I want us to finish with complaint handling. Okay. Complaint handling is whereby at least you should be able to know that this is an industry that has some challenges of its kind, and especially dealing with guests. You never know. Okay, you never know. Every person has their own characters. Okay, there are people who are short-tempered. There are people who just don't know when to talk and when to shut up, and so on. So definitely you should be able to know that you should always handle each case with diligence. Okay, you shouldn't handle it, maybe a customer is loud and you're also loud. Okay, you don't solve a problem like that. If a customer is loud, please go down. Okay, try to be able to know even what the problem is before even solving it. And it is a philosophy in the hospitality industry that the customer is always right. Okay, the customer is always right. That is something that you should be able to know, whether you are working in the industry or you are a guest. Okay, you are always right. And if you go to a restaurant which upholds that, then you can be able to note it. Okay, so it is quite important to be able to know that if it, for example, let's say that maybe a client, a guest has come in. It is a lady who has worn all white. Okay, ladies, we know ourselves. Okay, you can just go. You have worn your Sunday best. You look gorgeous, and maybe you had been taken for a date, and maybe your partner maybe orders maybe some wine, a very nice sweet wine, and as the waiter is serving, he or she actually pours some wine on your dress. Okay, do you think you're going to handle it nicely? Okay, it's your date. You have tried to do the very best, and all of a sudden you pour, maybe a waiter and a waitress pours wine on you. So definitely you don't expect the guests to be able to respond well. Okay, not at all. And especially if you are dealing with a lady who does not know how to keep quiet, you have a big problem. Okay, so it is actually courteous enough to, first of all, apologize. Okay, Apologize for the mistake, and remember, accidents do happen. Of course, I don't say that accidents don't happen. Accidents do happen, okay? And if they do happen, you have to apologize. You have to make sure that they know that how sorry you are, you did not mean to do that, and either offer to clean it up for them, okay? You can offer to clean it up with them. And if the guest is actually if the guest is not able to go slow, then please get to maybe to talk to the head waiter, okay? Get to talk to the head waiter, and the head waiter can come to resolve the situation for you, okay? So, and some of the steps that we normally do, especially if there is a complaint, you first of all listen to the guest, what the guest is saying, okay? Get to know exactly what they feel like, what do they want, okay? What is making them angry, okay? Just don't jump in to be able to know to enter into a conversation that you even don't know where exactly is the problem. And apologize to the guest, okay? Acknowledge that whatever the guest is feeling is not good. Apologize about the problem, no matter whose fault it is, okay? It might be the problem, like for example, there are ladies who normally throw their hands everywhere, okay? So imagine you are serving wine and they are throwing their hands and the wine pours. Definitely they won't say that they are the ones with the mistake. But at the end of the day, you have to apologize. You have to apologize, acknowledging that whatever that has happened is wrong, okay? And also repeat the complaint, okay? Like for example, you had maybe dripped some food or drinks, or maybe there's something that happened maybe with the paycheck and so on. You have to ensure that you are repeating the complaint back to them. In terms of, like for example, it is the drink, you'll say, I'm really sorry, okay, about what has happened. I really know how it feels, especially getting your clothes stained. You're trying to repeat exactly what what they feel like, okay? You are acknowledging for a fact that you have understood the pain that they are having. And also, after you have done that, at least you have calmed them down, okay? At least they see, okay, this person, if you try to go low, and also accept all the blames are yours, then the customer definitely goes low, okay? And just try as much as possible to, resolve the situation. Okay, maybe you can be able to explain, and that's why I said that you can be able to explain to the guests that you can offer to clean the clothes for them. Okay, you will take them to the laundry services for them to be cleaned. Then you can be able to compensate that way. Like for example, if it is food which was not enough, okay, their customers will just complain about the portioning of the food. Okay, so if they feel like the money that they are paying is not worth the food, then offer maybe a drink. Like for example, you might say, okay, or what about if I compensate you maybe with a drink, and so on. So at least the guests will feel like, okay, then I'm not paying for it, then why not? Okay, so if it is something that you cannot handle, okay, you cannot handle, please let the head waiter know. Let the if the head waiter is not there, let the supervisor know. If the supervisor is not there, let the manager know, okay, so that you resolve the problem as soon as possible. So after you have done that, make sure that you thank the guest, okay? Make sure you at least you ignore, Okay, you ignore about the complaint that the guest had previously, and thank them for visiting the hotel, welcoming them again, and so on, so that at least it is not like you are disappointed at the same time you even don't want their services. We always want guests. Okay, so we cannot be in operation if we do not have guests. So it is really important also to resolve the situation so that the guests can come the second time. And trust me, when they come the second time, they will be your friends. Okay, so you have to use that procedure to be able to ensure that you have maintained a good relationship with the guest, and you have resolved the problems and the complaints that they might be having. So I think we can wind up on that. So if you might be having any questions, please ask them as we wind up.